Coming up on our voices, prepping for college. How much is it going to cost? Adjusting to living on your own. And have you thought about going Greek? Hello, I'm George.
I'm Lexi.
I'm Abby.
I'm Nicholas.
This is Our Voices, a program produced by young adults for young adults, discussing what is important to us. And in this episode, the school year has ended, and for many of us, college is coming this fall. College degrees can carry a hefty price. It's not just books and tuitions. This is also the first time for a lot of us to be living on our own and making our own decisions. Does college life include pledging a fraternity or sorority? And does a dream career really require a college degree?
The saying goes, you need a degree to succeed, but not with every career. There are choices for those of us who don't see college in their future.
Every career does not require a college education, but every career requires some sort of education and training. And I want students to understand that whether or not you are going into cosmetology or barbering, or if you decide to install granite countertops, all of those things require some sort of education, some sort of training. So while I believe that a college education is extremely important, there are other ways that you can receive an education that might not be through going to a four-year institution. So there's tons of ways to get desirable careers. We would hope that at some point a student would want to come through and do the four-year route or the bachelor's degree at least route, but we know that that's not for everyone, and everybody's important. All careers are important. I'm thankful for my dad every time we have lights and air conditioning and are able to cook when there's a hurricane in the area because he knows how to work a generator. All jobs and all skills are needed. So if coming to a four-year or a two-year institution to get more of a liberal arts education isn't the best fit for a student, then do what serves you best.
So if a college degree isn't necessary for all careers, why do you guys think that there's so much pressure on us to get a college degree and a college education?
I think it's because basically, say you're a consumer or say a customer. Let's say your car breaks down and you want someone to fix your car. Now, there's a guy down the road who will fix your car, but he's not certified, and that is actually illegal to do. But you can't really tell if he studied under it, but you can kind of tell that he knows his stuff. But you go further down and there's someone who owns a shop, he went to school for it, he seems like he's more together, so who are you going to trust more?
I feel like it's kind of like a standard in society. Like everyone expects you to move on after high school, go on and get your bachelor's or master's or whatever.
Yeah, and you're like judged if you don't.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you're lazy if you don't go to college.
Yeah.
So my question would be, how do you know if college life is right for you?
Right, because going to college isn't really necessarily for everybody.
Yeah.
I personally don't picture myself going to college.
I think
like a full 4-year
I feel you, but I think
college.
You wouldn't really know until you actually got there, I would say. Oh, let me backtrack, because I think some people do have enough, they know enough about themselves to be able to tell where it is that they probably should be heading towards. But I think like college itself, university is an experience in itself. It's like high school, but like you learn even more about yourself.
I'm not doing well in high school anyway.
As
I know high school isn't even for me.
Listen, you wait until senior year, you do worse. But when you get to college, it's this whole new world. You are independent. It's not as independent as someone that graduated from college because they're literally in the real world. But it really is a new level, let's just say. And you'll find new things about yourself. So I would say that you really don't know 100% sure until you spend at least 1 year, at least.
Most teenagers don't even know what they want to do with their careers at that point. So unless you actually know what you want to do for the rest of your life and you actually know you don't have to go to college for that specific career.
You cannot really prepare the future.
Yeah.
Really.
But I agree with George, is that no one really knows for sure exactly what they want to do with their life. And they could have like this whole life plan set out, but then once you get into that moment, everything can change. It can be completely different from how you envision it, or it can go in the opposite direction, and you could do anything.
Life can be unpredictable.
Attempting college isn't cheap. Whether it's a community college or a four-year university, it's not just paying for classes and supplies. There are unplanned expenses that can eat up your money fast. There are also different sources for financial help.
Some unexpected expenses that students would come into contact with would be personal expenses for entertainment purposes, to go see a movie, to go to dinner. Transportation is a big expense that they don't factor in, to and from home over the breaks, gas while they're here on campus if they have a car. I would say probably about 5% of what costs would be for a total education would be unexpected expenses. I would say 5% is a good target figure. There mainly are 4 different types of financial aid that students are eligible for. The first one being federal assistance. That's through the FAFSA application, which is the federal application for financial assistance, and they complete that online. And there's Pell Grant eligibility, which is a grant. There's federal work-study opportunity, which is like student employment, and there are student loan options that are financing options for students. From there, the second financial opportunity would come from the state, especially being Florida residents. You can qualify for the Bright Futures program. As well as if you are at a private institution, there is the Florida Resident Access Grant, and that's only at private institutions. Moving forward to institutional scholarships, some institutions offer scholarships based on students' admissions application. The fourth financial assistance opportunity would be from external scholarships, so what are sometimes referred to as outside scholarships. Getting down to the figures and the financials, I would recommend that during the senior year of high school, in the fall semester starting that, and then it's really going to get down to the details in the spring. There's 2 different ways that you could look at this. One being, what is your career what is the career you want to pursue, and what degrees or certificates do you need for that? And after you know what's needed for that degree or for that career, you can look on any university's website, and they have what's called a net price calculator to determine what a net price to a student would be for a specific degree. And so that's very important because a lot of students aren't aware of that, but every university has one on there. Most of the time it's under the financial aid webpage, and that will give them an estimated amount of costs for a specific degree. From there, students, the other side of things is really, what can a student make in a specific field once they're done with their education? What kind of salary would the student anticipate? And so what we recommend for that is there's a website out there, and it's through Indeed.com, and that's actually an employment search engine where students can go to look at what a salary estimator would be for a specific job that they are looking for, and that can give them a real good picture of these are what my costs are, and this is what I could potentially make with 1 year of experience, 2 years right out of college even.
Now, I hope I don't sound biased here, but in terms of who gets what in terms of scholarships and financial aid, I've noticed that athletes, I would say, who have quite low GPAs compared to other peers like myself, like 2.0, 2.3s, they are getting full rides to top of the line universities.
There's favoritism.
Yeah, so what do you guys feel on that?
Well, those sports, football, soccer, tennis, sometimes tennis, they bring in revenue for the college. So when you get better athletes, better students that can play those sports better, it gets the college revenue. It gets them.
Yes, but
But it's
if you
not
think
fair to
about
the others.
it's not fair. And who is it that really builds the rep? I mean,
Every what else do they offer to the school?
It's academics. What I'm saying, athletes ain't
Because they
offering
judge schools on test scores too.
Their test scores, GPA, rank, graduation rate, all these things are important. It's not just athletics.
Yes.
If it was that way, then honestly, there would be no place for college in college
There
for
would
me.
be, yeah, no.
So I would say that that's just as important, but you see less and less of 4.5, 4.0 GPA valedictorians not getting into school. If they do get in, they still have to come off with debt. Meanwhile, someone who's rank whatever, way below their rank, is getting in no cost.
Simply because they can throw a misshapen ball around.
Well, I have to admit, being an athlete is some tough. These people do things that you wouldn't even imagine. But a lot of these academic people kind of do the same thing mentally. Maybe they're prepared for life. Some people have locked down and just focus on school for like the entirety of the first quarter of their lives until they get into college. So essentially, it's kind of, pretty much, I guess you guys are right. It pretty much goes down to a factor of money. And the fact that these coaches are getting paid millions, actually.
Yeah.
It's a fact. Yeah. Millions. Athletes don't get anything. They just get they just get full rides. But coaches and the NCAA, they get loads of money.
It's all about the money.
Believe. It really is.
Well, speaking of money, there are several financial aid programs, but you brought up something very interesting about coming out of college with debt. So do you think that financial aid really helps students in the long run? Does it help or hurt them more?
I don't want to be a hog here, but I do have, I applied to Flagler College and I got accepted. And if I went in without financial aid, I'd be paying $30,000 a year. No, with financial aid, and that sometimes financial aid, actually what they give you too is a loan, so you still have to pay it off.
Yeah.
But minus the loan part, I would, with the financial aid that benefits me, that I don't have to pay back, given to me by the school and the government, I'd be paying, instead of $30,000, I'd be paying $9,000 a year. Still can't afford it. Let's not get me wrong. I'm going to Seminole State regardless. But that is a huge difference. So in the long run, financial aid is still, it helps in my case.
Yeah.
But the debt, I've heard stories though of the debt still sticks with you even after you graduate. All the debt that you're in, you will work for a long time to pay back that debt.
I think it depends personally on like your personal experience and what you go into. Like in the end, even if you have debt and you get into what you love and you get into a high-paying job, you'll be able to pay it off because you attended that college. Whereas if you didn't, you wouldn't be in that same position. There's always that possibility.
You're right to a degree, but I know last year I had this, he was in his 60s, his name was, I won't drop a name, but he was one of my teachers last year. He was my 6th period teacher. And he was talking about how he, in the next coming months, will finally be paying off his debts. He went to school in the 1970s.
I heard stories about that. I had a substitute once that said he was paying off for 5 years. He was paying off his student loans and his financial aid debts for 5 years, even after he graduated.
And those debts are even larger on the ones who are attending college out of their state.
Mm-hmm.
Out-of-state tuitions are insane. They rise up about 20 grand just for out-of-state students.
Even if it's like Florida to Georgia, you just cross the line. Oh man, you gotta pay me like $1 trillion. Oh, okay, here you go. I have it right here. Yeah.
And certain colleges can only provide certain technology classes, and some students only want to attend those for their degrees, but they don't have it in their original states. Mm-hmm. And that's why they have to go out of state to get their certain degree.
Exactly, and that's kind of how they get you. That brings the sort of sense of unease for your future, and that's not healthy.
There's no guarantee, too, that you will go into the field that you studied for, because I heard my family up in Idaho, there's a friend, and he went to school for, many, many years, and he has a degree in physics, this very complicated physics degree, and he works at Walmart. So there's no guarantee that you will be able to pay off your debt even after.
At least he's saving money, so he can pay that loans off quicker, I guess. I don't know. But that's just the reality, man. I guess maybe it's supposed to teach us a lesson.
Starting college is also the start of living on your own, managing your own life, and managing your own decisions. It's a lot to adjust to, and it can also be difficult.
The biggest, I think, change for most students when they come to college is the lack of structure. You know, I've worked with a lot of students over the years and working with their schedule and figuring out when to study and when to do projects. That freedom of learning to navigate is huge for a lot of students. is something that becomes natural very quickly.
Choose a couple that fit your interest, and another way to have fun and to also do it with a purpose is join organizations that are in line with your academics, with your belief systems, that are in line with organizations or activities, sports and things of that nature that you are, that you love.
That's a chance to try things out. One of the great things about student involvement is it's a chance to fail. And we learn so much from failure, but colleges and universities provide an environment where there's support structures in place.
Budgeting, and even if you don't budget, but being mindful that I have $50 in my account and that has to last me for 30 days. And not being frivolous with money. You don't necessarily always have to go and eat out if you know that the dining hall is available with food that's good that you can eat.
Credit card debt and student loan debt are actually two huge issues right now for young adults that are post-college, and that often starts in college. And so being really mindful of taking on any credit cards, not that credit cards are bad, but being strategic about paying them off every month and not allowing balances to accumulate. Thinking about what has to be done and when it's going to happen. And so thinking through, okay, well, I have this assignment and I think it's going to take 2.5 hours. So I'm going to do that this afternoon between my 2 o'clock class and my 5 o'clock class. Well, that doesn't mean that if somebody comes down the hall of your residence hall and says, hey, let's go play ultimate frisbee, let's go swim at the pool, let's, go grab a bite to eat. It doesn't mean that you can't do those things, but you have a decision to make. If I do this, when will I do this assignment? And so it's thinking through that, that decision making, which is something that people do throughout the rest of their life.
Going to class. I think that if students learn early that every time you don't go to class, you're flushing, money down the drain. Someone's paying for your college education, whether or not it be your parents, a scholarship, federal aid. And when you don't go to class to learn the things that your professors have, established for you to learn to help you with the curriculum for your classes, then you're doing a disservice to yourself. It may seem cool to just, kind of sleep through things, and it may happen trying to go to the same college as all of your friends. And that's not necessary because your college decision and the experience that you want to get out of college for your career goals and your life goals are personal and not based off of what your friends are necessarily going to do. Oftentimes going to a college away from your friends allows you to grow into the person who you never thought that you might become.
One of the great things about college is being able to have a clean slate many times and to reinvent yourself, to say, like, this is who I am. Without the expectations that, I've had for 12 years of knowing people.
Adjusting to college life is hard in general, but what about for students who are attending out of state?
That's true, because you're in a totally new environment where you know nobody.
Yeah, and some people's families, they're completely all in one state or maybe two. And so when you move away from your family, you're completely on your own.
And it's a scary thing to think about.
In general, not just for out-of-state people, but even for people who are going like 20 minutes down the road or whatever, it's still a very hefty thing because we're very, I don't want to say sheltered, but we're like, being in school, we have very...
You have responsibilities.
Yeah, you have responsibilities, yeah.
Going to college adds just more responsibilities on top of that.
Yeah.
And it really depends on the person, because some people grow up already having to like clean the house already or doing picking up, taking care of their siblings and stuff, and then going to college could really be so much to take on.
There's a genius way to do this. I heard my parents, they offer me an alternative. I can stay at home if I'm going to school and have a job. So that's one of the things that I really wouldn't have to worry about. And I've met a few kids in college who say that they still live at home and their parents allow that because they go to school and they're doing well in school. So that's also an alternative, not necessarily for out of state, but it's still an alternative to kind of think of like maybe lessening the burden of being in college.
Independent, yeah.
But that begs the question, because not everyone's going to be able to
stay at home.
Well, that's true. It's just an alternative.
My question would be, like, what could the schools do to help at least familiarize the student with his or her new environment?
Well, many colleges already provide like a meal plan, so you don't have to worry about groceries, because some students would be completely lost at that point.
Yeah.
And school housing.
Yeah, and they usually provide more than like when dorms, you live with either 1, 2, 3 people sometimes they're up to 4.
I think there's even like apartment complexes, like colleges
like
are
outside
within
the
range of
school.
apartment complexes, and they offer student discounts and whatnot.
A lot of college towns.
Not
and
like
stuff like
discounts, but you know what I'm talking
that.
about.
What are ways you think a student could prepare, whether they're going out of state or not, just in general prepare for college?
I've been to Stetson and I've done a class there. I did this math class. Didn't really help me with my math, but I will say, that's besides the point. I sat there and I kind of had and it was taught by actual Stetson, except for one time, but it was taught by actual Stetson professors. It would rotate. And so and they were pretty out for it. They told me that they wouldn't, they told the class that they wouldn't like try to be high school friendly or whatever that means.
They're professors.
They're professors, so they're gonna go for it. And in order for you to survive, you have to run the gauntlet yourself. So that was a good, way to me to get familiarized. Of course, I got rejected by Stetson anyway. Don't matter. But I'm saying in general, there's a lot of open houses. Once again, Stetson had an open house. And I did a poetry thing there, and we did a workshop, and it was pretty cool. I mean, you don't really have to do this. You can just go in, and then that's a lot of life is just going in and improving, really much.
I would suggest to take advantage of the options available to you.
Yeah, essentially.
Yes.
There's always like plenty of help out there for those that know and are willing to seek it out.
Fraternities and sororities. There's more to these organizations than we see on TV and the movies. Is being a pledge something to plan for or avoid?
It's not just about it being part of the college experience, but it's a part of a lifestyle. Our membership is lifelong, which means that we participate from the moment we join until the time that we die. Ultimately, it's a lifelong commitment, and it's a service commitment. It's a social commitment where we go out and we challenge some of the obstacles that are facing, that people are facing in general in the world. And I think that our students who participate in sorority and fraternity life, they get a really good, well-rounded college experience, knowing a little bit more about themselves and perpetuating the legacy of our organizations.
Fraternities and sororities are not for everybody, and it's not, not like in an elitist way, like, whatever, but it really resonates with some people, and some people just doesn't, and the only way to find out about that is to research it, look into it, maybe go through recruitment or go through membership intake process, and learn more about them to make a decision for yourself of, does this resonate with me or not? And I think that, students having a lot of opportunities, and again, finding a place and a tight-knit group of friends when they come to a university, I think is a very positive experience that a lot of students are seeking, especially those come from high school that are used to that. Maybe student athletes. We see a lot of student athletes in high school that will come up that are used to that kind of team environment and close-knit environment. But again, students all across the map, they're looking for belonging. They want to feel connected to a place.
Each organization, fraternity and sorority, has its own platform or thing that they want the community to focus on, and that they do. You have education, you have music, you have philanthropies that are varieties. I think that a lot of times the students select their organizations based on what they see happening on their campus, and that's a reflection of what the national organizations are doing. And so the students are required to do activities that are social, that are service, that are academic, and the students are selecting their choices based on what they see.
Different groups have different time commitments and on different campuses. So some organizations on some campuses, at some institutions, the time commitment is tremendous. There are some Pan-Hellenic sororities which they have mandatory things that you have to do every single month. Some of them run on merit-based point systems where the more community service hours you do and the better your grades are, and the study hours that you do will, increase your standing and maybe give you a better chance to get in to live in the house or live in facility kind of a thing. So there's incentivized programs.
We don't go to class. or if we go to class, we just get everything handed to us. It's all about how you look and how popular you can be. There's no community service going on. That's a huge misconception. We're doing thousands of hours collectively. And mostly that you're buying your friends. We are not buying our friends. We're generally just learning that we have things in common with people that are showing interest at the same time.
And the reality is on college campuses, a lot of students unfortunately make the choice to break the law, whether it's drugs or alcohol and these kinds of things. And we definitely see that within our fraternities and sororities as well. And I think that, you see a lot more of it in our current culture in the media because it's more exciting. It's more exciting for people to read about a hazing case or an alcohol case or these kinds of things. It's the, if it bleeds, it leads kind of a thing. And, and I just think with that being said, we also, as professionals and as members of fraternities and sororities, can't say that, well, we do all these good things too. We did 100,000 hours of service, so it's okay if we have this big party and burn this thing down, because it's not. Doing all these great things that fraternities and sororities do isn't a blank check or an excuse for that kind of behavior.
So, are fraternities and sororities actually necessary?
I don't think they're necessary. I think it depends on, there's something for everyone. So some people it'll be good for, and other people it's just not their thing.
Yeah, I can see that. For me personally, it is necessary because without them, the movie Animal House would not exist. That would not have happened. But honestly, to be serious for a moment, it's like people want to live the college experience, and you're not gonna get any better to go into a sorority in your case or fraternity in ours, because it really is a brotherhood. Of course, there are a couple, or sisterhood. Of course, there are a couple issues like hazing and the certain events that might happen at parties and induction ceremonies, if you can call them that. So, pretty much, the gist of it is, would you guys want to be a part of either of the two?
I personally would not. No, because you hear all of the horror stories, and though you mainly hear them on TV, and you can't trust everything that you hear on TV, TV gets its material from somewhere.
But there's still more to it than what TV portrays.
Well, there is more to it, but it's just, I don't. And even if there is that nice environment, I'm not entirely comfortable with it, because there still
agree.
Sororities still do host the college parties, and it's one of those things where partying is not my thing in general. So being a part of the sorority would not be something that
the right fit for you.
Yeah, it wouldn't be something that I would be a part of.
I get it.
But some people feel as if these fraternities, sororities, they become like a family.
Yeah.
Some people are still going back to their fraternities, sororities, and they feel connected to even people that are generations past, because it's just a family that keeps going and going and going on.
You're right, but
I'm not dissing it. It's still
But
it's
do you
still
feel like
helpful.
you
It's still helpful, especially going back to the out of state thing. It's still helpful for people out of state
to
maybe.
to
get to know people. Maybe.
But four of us know that we don't necessarily need to belong to a fraternity or sorority to feel like a family, as we would know. There would be.
I plan on keeping track of all of you.
I'm George. Thanks for watching our voices. See you next month.